Before you get started on your weekend wrenching, you want to take a few minutes to clean up the clusterfuck of parts, tools, and metal swerves you created. That way you feel like you're starting on a clean slate. Alright, let's give this a shot, scumbags. The RCV axle on this side, it's a little bit stiff. You can see it can't quite get the full range of motion. So we're going to pop off the steering knuckle, the unit bearing, yada yada. Slip this bad girl out, see if we can't see what's wrong with that constant velocity joint. Alright, buckle up. Let's try to do this in one take. So, of course, we got the air on. Let's go reverse, and let's get this axle nut off. I guess I could turn the setting up. Remember, there's no incentive to reuse the axle nut, but I also don't like chucking them because, and maybe you forget what size it was on there. All right, let's move on to the little 13 mils holding the unit bearing in. And that needs a 12-point socket. And let's put this little Milwaukee to work. Setting King Kong, and let's see if we can go all the way over. Not quite. Alright, probably close enough. Let's see if she'll do it. That's one. Oh, you see how stiff that is? That ain't no good. That's two. And then, maybe that was the better way for three. Let's see. Looks like I wish I had a little bit shorter extension. Close enough. All right, all three of those are out. Unit bearing popped right out. That's great. All right, now we want to get the, oh yeah, you can see that thing's already trying to push its way out. It's that stiff in there. Let's go ahead and get the steering knuckle ball joint. Yeah, let's get the nuts off there. So that's a 32. I'm not sure we can get the big air ratchet there. Let's try this guy here. Come on, Milwaukee, you're in your feet. That thing ain't no joke. Look at that, man. Rip that bad boy right off. We'll leave it on there for a second. And then we'll see if we can't get this off. That's a 22. Maybe I can pull this out first. Let's do that. Let's see here, looking for a couple of flat blade screwdrivers. Thought I had them over here. Maybe going a little crazy. All right, let's go get them. Oh. All right, you fucking scumbags. Let's keep busting nuts. It's Friday night after all. That's the best time to bust nuts. Sorry I had to do some work off camera. That's just the fucking way she goes. It's the way of the road, bud. Way of the road. Alright, let's see here. Yeah, maybe. Okay, so we'll try it the other way. Oh no, that's it. Yeah, that's it. There she goes. That'll come right off. That's no problem. Yeah. We're going to use that trick I showed you about banging on the side of it versus trying to use a ball joint separator. This one's a little harder than the others. Do some work off camera, come back and show you the result. Of course, as soon as I turned off the camera, hit it one more time, fucker came off in my hand. So while we've got this off and while we're in there, we'll clean this up. We'll inspect that steering linkage hole, make sure it's not too wallered out. These are the same as come on the Dana 35s. And I ain't seen nobody, sorry, Dana 30s, I ain't seen nobody say you gotta upgrade them. And So I got a couple of spares of these. We'll look and decide if we want to reuse this or put another one in. We got some new unit bearings too. All right, hold on. I'll show you some reassembly footage. Hey, how you proud Putin supporters doing? Let me talk you through what happened here. I was trying to lengthen this Johnny joint. You know, so I was spinning it out. I was trying to move the axle forward on the TJ there, maybe an inch. What ended up happening is I couldn't get the bolt to come out of the Johnny joint. It had frozen in there. A lot of you guys may have seen that on like rusty old bushings. But anyways, what I had to do to get the son of a bitch off is I started doing what you do to get rusty leaf spring bushing bolt out. You drill out the head. Well, you'd cut it out, but I had to drill it out because of access. So I drilled out the head, and then using the nuts and these washers, I started pulling the bolt through the sleeve, the bushing sleeve. Well, the fit got so galled up that I actually wasn't able to turn the nut anymore. So I ended up having to cut through the remainder of that misalignment spacer. So obviously I'd already ordered another one of these before I sacrificed it, but goddamn, what a pain in the dick, you know. This rig's not even that rusty of a rig. I guess it just got a little bit pissed off during installation. But here's another example of why you always lube your bolts. All right, here's the two RCV axles out of that front diff. I'm not liking what the longer side one here is doing. It's pretty stiff at the CV end. So I'm going to go ahead and throw one of the factory shafts back in. I don't know if I have one there or if it's up here, but we got them around. And then what I'll do is I'll try to argue with RCV to get us some replacements. Good morning, fellas. Hope you're not too hungover from your Pride Month celebration activities. Gonna need to trim this steering knuckle to fit this template. This is so that the RCV axle can slide through. I've done this before. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but we'll give it a good go. All right, that's good enough for putting on a Jeep. Let's keep moving. All right, we got this steering knuckle clearanced. We did a quick inspection and clean off of this one. It's good for reuse. So now we're gonna follow the working rule of to prove you did something, go ahead and throw a coat of spray paint on it. Using VHT epoxy paint because this is a suspension product. I found this to be pretty good, and it's not too much more expensive than just buying, you know, regular rattle can flat black. One of the, it's one of those. All right, yeah. Remember, don't do too good of a job or your buddies aren't gonna believe that you're the one that did the work. Half-assery is a science. All right, give that trash a few minutes to dry, flip it over and hit the backside. All right, I've got to do a little bit of clearancing here. So the guy who had this before me, he had a 4-link in the front. I've got a radius arm or a Y-link. So this stuff here is hitting the bridge on top of the axle, or the axle truss as you call it. So we're going to need to adjust this. I guess you could say grind too, but I think you guys get what I'm saying. And make sure you get all your power cords spun up, that way shit's falling and hitting your flip-flops. All right, those are looking pretty good. Little side benefit here to painting stuff on top of the trash can. So you can use it as an excuse not to take the trash out. Your mileage may vary, but bad advice is part of this channel. All right, so we got that upper link or the Y-link clearance. You can see it lines up there with that bolt hole. Had to grind a little bit on the bridge and grind the living shit out of that, but pretty sure it'll still work. So I'm happy with that. We'll keep moving. All right, let's work through some of this reassembly. Start by putting our newly painted steering knuckle back on. Looks okay. All right. Gotta little bit of grease left over here from cleaning. So we'll use that to lube up the threads so that they're not completely dry. All right, we'll call that one done. Give the top a smidge of lube as well. Go ahead and get that one started. I always recommend you start these by hand to prevent cross threading, and it also gives you an incentive to clean off the threads and not be a complete shitbag about your parts. You can do that when you're in the dirt. You know, really show that level of care by abusing the fuck out of it when you're miles away from home. Alright, that's pretty good. Let's see, flip that around. What's the torque setting here? Fuck off high. Let's go down to 100, and we'll start with 100 as if you know, as something before we go and check the torque spec. All right, it's moving in the right direction, but the upper one, she definitely needs some attention as well. That going. Yeah. I think we can get her a little further on like that. Oh yeah, starting to see the ball joint spindle spin. Alright, let me keep on the bottom one here. Pull it the rest of the way up. Alright. Pretty good. Let's keep going with the top one. Alright, so we got something on there. What we'll do is go check the torque setting in the Chrysler manual, because you can do the lower one with the axle, but you can't do the upper one. So give me 5 minutes. Alright, well the manual said 75 and 80, and that may be correct, but we're just going to leave it at 100 and 100. Alright, so let's slide old super axle in here. You got to put the pretty orange boot on the inside of the steering knuckle, because that's not big enough to slide through the knuckle itself. All right, now just trying to line it up. All right, that's pretty good. And we're gonna, Lord willing, I tell you what, we're gonna get that yellow boot to pop on after we get the rest of this bad girl up and in there. So let's do that. Let's see if we can get these guys to come home. With the bolt thread. Yeah, she pulled it okay. Already got these lubed up with a bunch of anti-seize. Might not be okay. We'll keep doing it, see what we get. Yep. Yeah, that looks okay on that one. You'll notice I'm doing this by hand. This is just to get feel for how it goes together and prevent cross threading, especially on the newer parts. Let's see what she needs up here. Yeah, not 100% sure why she fighting me so much. All I can think is that the splining on the axles is a little bit galled up. Anyways, let me get this together off camera. All right, I got the hub pulled on, so we'll take it to 75, which is what the factory service manual says. All right, now we can get the axle nut on. Use a liberal application of grease. This is the only time in a day when you'll use the word liberal in a positive sense. All right, let's see what this old sweetheart can do. Not liking that. Let me back it out and make sure I got the right axle nuts. All right, scumbags, let's keep putting this together. Try to ignore the noise of the free garage refrigerator that's behind you. Just take that to be ambience. If you don't know what that is, that's just fine. A little bit of grease on those ball joint studs. Yep. Yep, going on nice and smooth, feels okay. Let's see how the top one feels. The top one feels good too. It's real fortunate on this side. You guys who live in the rust areas, hope I'm making you nice and jelly. Watching how easy these things thread on. All right, now, looking at that book, it's kind of odd in my mind, but torque setting on these ball joints is a little bit low. I think that must be because the ball joint stud, it doesn't have a hex head on it, so you can't grab it. So if it gets bunged up there in that fit, you're gonna have a heck of a time getting it out. Hell, what do I know? Oh, no, wrong way. That one's probably better. Yeah, that's better. That feels like it's going on. Yeah. We'll leave that click for a second because we want to make sure that the upper goes on the rest of the way. Appears that we didn't bring that 22 with us. Let me jump over there and grab it. Appears like many things in my life, it has just walked off. So give me a second so I can find it so we can keep doing the reassembly. All right, I found it. Let's keep going. Let's see if we can get the upper to lock in. come back and do the cotter pin a little bit later in the assembly, just to make sure we like how it goes together. Don't, miss a step or whatever, have to take it back apart. And cotter pins are a pain in the ass. Okay. Remember, everything's a hammer. All right, let's slide the axle shaft in. Now I'm going to try to warranty out that other RCV. I don't want to run it the way it is, so I'm going to run this factory shaft and just, fucking pray for the best, bud. Try to mess up the inner axle seal while you're in there, creating more work for future you. A little bit of trouble finding her. Give me a second, I'll finish that alignment off camera. All right, good news. I was able to cut a couple of farts off camera there, relieve some internal intestinal pressure. That's a win-win if you ask me. So yeah, I was able to get that in there. Like I said, hopefully I completely fucked up the inner axle seal. Go ahead and lube up these splines, just out of OCD type habit. And then looking at the threads on this axle, it's not great, but I think we can get her to work. Especially since we don't hardly fucking wheel. Working on these pieces of shit all the time. Alright, so that's pretty decent. A little bit of lube on the threads of the first unit bearing bolt. Yep. Get her in there hand tight. Yeah, she's okay. She's liking how she's going. I'm liking how she's going. She's going real good. We'll finish the rest of it off camera. Catch up in a second. All right, let's go ahead and put together a bead lock with a 37. We got a second one we'll do off camera here, but that's so we can hang these off the front axle, do the full suspension travel, see how much we got to trim off those front fenders. Keep in mind, lube is your friend. I like a little bit of Dawn dish soap with some water. Feel free to use your own creative combination. All right, let's see here. Alright, now she's okay on the top bead. She's not all the way back on the safety bead, or all the way back on the sealing surface, but you do that after the fact with air. Yep, we got some good valve stems in there. And I want these to seal up pretty good and not leak an abnormal amount of air, so I'm gonna spend a second wiping them down and fussing on them. Also going to hit the bolts with a little bit of silicone just so it's not dry. Try to make sure as you're doing this that you don't have any more silicone. I did manage to find a full can of silicone lube, and I was remembering as I was putting this together, actually you want to get all the bolts started before you start bringing it down, and the squarer it is, the easier it's going to be for you to do. I'm just coming down on it with this little 1/4-inch ratchet just to make sure I'm not cross-threading anything or screwing anything up. Get every bolt healthy spray of dry lube. Yeah, some of these are a little stiffer than others, but she's going together okay. So if you have an imagination, picture that about 42 more times, and I won't need to film the rest of this. Right, as you're torquing this down, you want to use a cross pattern to try to pull it down square. Allied's torque setting is 12 foot-pounds, but not to exceed 15. It's not very much. What I like to do to make sure I'm bringing it down square is split that 12 foot-pounds up into 3 or 2 steps. So I'm using an inch-pound setting torque wrench here, so 12 foot-pounds is 144 inch-pounds. So I'm going to start at about 60 inch-pounds and just see how she comes down, see how I like the way she feels. Now some of these bolts were pretty stiff, you might recall. Yeah, see, like that brought the bead lock lid down, but I didn't hear it click, so I'm just jump across and do the same thing over here, kind of watching as it comes down. Yeah, same thing. So I'm gonna just split it up into 4 turns each, just to try to come down. Okay, what you can do to kind of guess where you were at is to look at the high bolts. Don't be too worried about getting it perfect. You just try to be semi-consistent and be a little bit square and coming down. Okay, so now it's flat. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the other guy. Let me do his neighbor. A couple turns to get him flat because he was proud, right? He was up. Okay, now we're flat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Same thing, that's the guy we had down. A couple turns to get him flat. All right, there's flat. 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, just picture that about 1,500 more times, and you got the gist of assembling a bead lock. I ended up needing a second milk crate underneath this to keep it stable, but I'm at the point where I can get it to 144 inch-pounds or 12 foot-pounds. And so I started again by the valve stem. I've already got 4 of them down to spec, so let's listen to it. Tightening up. Okay, there's the click. These 2 might be done. 1, 2. One more. There you go. Back over. 1, 2, 3. Not yet. Let's see. One more. There she goes. Pop over here. Yeah, so she's pulling down nice and tight. We finish this ring out, we'll flip her over, put some air in her, and I'll let you watch the bead pop in.